In the first lecture in this series, we asked why sortition matters. In this lecture, we're going to delve into the question of where sortition comes from. And the answer may be surprising. Ancient Greek democracy. Now, I have been teaching Greek political theory and Greek democracy for the last 30 years, and I didn't ever hear of sortition. Most people today think Greek democracy was about direct democracy or participatory democracy. They don't realize that actually most of the people who governed Athenian and other Greek city-states were chosen by lottery. Here's how it worked. The Greek government was actually comprised of 5 different institutions. The first institution of Greek democracy is the ecclesia, or the People's Assembly. Every adult male citizen of any age and any class could participate in the ecclesia. There were 30,000 citizens, more or less, in Athens. Usually about 6,000 would participate. The principle here is who bolomenenos. Anyone who wishes, anyone can participate. As Aeschines, one of the leading statesmen of Athens, once said, it's democratic that anyone can make a proposal to the assembly. But the assembly was limited. It could declare war, but it couldn't propose and enact legislation on its own. It needed the boule, the Council of 500. And importantly, in this boule, these 500 citizens are chosen by lottery each year. They proposed laws for the assembly. And so it's this boule of people randomly chosen from the different geographical parts of Athens who came together and proposed the laws that then the assembly would take up. They also administered the army and navy, and they administered finances. Again, randomly selected citizens of any class and any background. These were not the elite, and they were the ones the Greeks entrusted with administering even things like the army and the tax structure. A third institution was the court, or the Heliastes. And the Heliastes was comprised of 6,000 citizens, again, chosen by lottery, randomly. These were primarily political trials, trials that dealt with fundamental political issues, whether people were treasonous or not, like Socrates. And they weren't necessarily criminal trials, but they dealt with fundamental issues of the Athenian polis. And so the jurors in the court had to pledge to vote in accordance with the Constitution of Athens, with the ecclesia and the boule. The fourth institution of Greek democracy is the magistracies, or the archae. These were comprised of 700 posts, 600 of them drawn by lot. Again, 600 of the 7 main administrators, archae, the leaders of Athens, the people who governed the city on a daily basis, 600 of the 700 are drawn by lottery. And importantly, for 1-year terms and 1-term limit. You can't serve again. What does this do? It guarantees a wide participation amongst Athenian citizens in the very daily exercise of how we govern ourselves. I say it's lottery and it's random, and yet not just anyone could be chosen as a magistrate. These are important jobs. And so they had to be examined before taking office. For example, did they treat their parents well? Did they pay their taxes? But as long as you were a good person who generally followed the customs and norms of Athens, you could be one of these people chosen randomly to run essential offices of the Greek government. Now, some people will be chosen by appointment or election, the generals. Why? Because they need a certain talent, they need a certain skill. But the premise of Greek democracy, of isagoria, that we're all equal, is that in matters of politics, no one is an expert. Everybody has the equal right to govern. Aristotle writes, "It is accepted as democratic when public offices are allocated by lot, and is oligarchic when they are filled by election." The oligarchs, or the aristocrats, they ruled by electing the elite. But the Democrats wanted a wider perspective. They wanted more people in the decision-making bodies, and so they chose them by lottery. And this is where the democratic idea of citizenship comes from. Aristotle writes, the citizen only exists in a democracy. That's a fascinating, important line. If you live under a monarchy, you're a subject, you're not a citizen. Why is being a citizen connected with being in a democracy? Because it's only in a democracy that you both are ruled and you rule. And representative democracy, elective democracy, the entire premise of it is that we let other people rule for us. As Hannah Arendt says, we outsource democracy to elected officials so that we can go about our daily lives. The premise of representative democracy is that what's important is our jobs and our families, not our democracy. What Greek democracy understood is that democracy required active, engaged citizens, and sortition was one way to activate them and engage them. That's what we can learn from Greek democracy.